Hello and welcome to episode 1142 of The Sleeper and the Bust. It is Friday, February 17th. I'm your host, Paul Sporer, joined this morning by Justin Mason. Justin, good morning, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
Doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. Beautiful Friday. I got the day off to have a nice little long weekend, so I got to sleep in a little bit. I appreciate you letting me do that.
No problem. I did the same. I said I'm doing well, which I am, but I'm a little under the weather. Our weather's yo-yoing right now. We were 80 down to 30. It's going to be down here for a couple of days and then back up to the 70s and 80s. It's insane. But
are you going to be able to handle the weather in other places? Because we both have, we're both going to New York, and
yeah,
that's going to be freezing.
I'll be ready.
And then
I'll be ready.
I'm very close to booking my full trip for Vegas, and I was looking at the weather last night, and
Don't tell me.
It was like 37 degrees last night in Vegas.
What's it going to be in a month, though? How quickly do they start to warm up?
I would hope. I would hope that it's a desert. So deserts get cold at night.
I know. It's misleading. Some people that don't know their climate might be like, "That's a desert. They'll be fine." No, it's cold in the fall and winter there, especially at night, like you're saying.
Yeah. So make sure you bring plenty of layers. Like walk around like the Michelin Man.
Yep, I'll have the layers. I'll have the long johns cooking, especially in New York. I'll have them packed in Vegas just in case. I'm always ready. I got my beanie. I'll have my my multiple hoodies, of course. So I'll be ready. Don't you worry. We're still talking pitchers. Last episode, we kind of got pretty deep on the upper end there, so we didn't get too far. Today we're attacking a bigger group, and I'll try to keep us moving if we get too bogged down. But these are the next groups, like these next couple episodes that we do. These are the ones you really do want to dig in on. If anything, we probably should have been a little bit quicker on some of the guys we were talking about on that ace tier, because what more can you really say about Corbin Burnes unless you're in arbitration and you're shit talking him, blaming him for not making the playoffs like the Brewers did, which good move there, really smart. The whole arbitration process,
it's unreal,
so stupid.
This is a guy that I would assume they would really want to re-sign.
Well, and I posted about it, and a lot of the comments, it's a pretty lively discussion there, and they're saying like, well, they must know that they're just not going to re-sign him, so they're going to pinch those pennies. $760,000. It's not nothing. I'm not pretending like just throw your money around, but like, is it worth it, right? If he gets 400 of that, like meet him in the middle, say 350 of that or whatever, is that worth alienating your chance at re-signing him? And it's like, I know he's not going to go out there and tank to like spite them because that hurts him. I get that. But just like, I don't know, man. The whole arbitration process seems so dumb. It really seems dumb.
It is. It's just so stupid.
And it's always over such relative small amounts of money for teams.
And it's always like, or it's not always, but a lot of times it's the teams that are the penny pinchers that like they don't want to spend the extra $1 million or $2 million or whatever.
The Yankees did it on Betances. Remember when they were saying like he can't close or whatever? And this was like back when he was arguably the best reliever in the game.
Yeah. It's a bad system. It just is a bad system. But I don't know what the alternative necessarily is.
I think one thing that I've always thought, and I probably need to know more about the whole process, but as I understand it, the arbiters are still on some bullshit ass back of the baseball card stats. That's why saves pay. That's why we always talk about that situation where they're going to keep a young guy from closing because they don't want to rack up saves because that pays. And so middle relievers can't get paid. I wish there was more advanced stats, like train them on the advanced stats on things. So I would like to see that, but who knows? Let's get into some pitchers though. We're moving on. I think we did like 15 the first time here. So let's talk about some Southpaw studs. Carlos Rodon, Julio Urías, and Max Fried. Obviously, Rodon joining a new team. I think he's kind of the most interesting one here. Signing big with the Yankees. We talk about the whole first year deal with a big on a big deal with a new team. We pressure to be the man, especially. I do think that principle does apply here a bit to Rodon, even though he's not the ace. I do still think like, hey, especially going to New York, there could be something there. Now, the issue with that is like, it's not 100% where everyone who goes to a new team fails or anything like that. The idea is like, do you want to allow a transition year because now they're getting paid fat? they're going to a team like New York, in this case for Rodon, where pressure can be, amped up to a higher degree. Will it cause him to rise to his game and be amazing? Or will he try to do too much and maybe be off of his game a little bit? We can't know that, but this is part of why people, and Glenn Colton, Rick Wolf, have it as part of their smart plan to just avoid players on these first year of the huge deals, allow the transition year, and then come back to them. How do you feel about Rodon in New York? He's leaving that very friendly confines of San Francisco, coming back to the American League, but he's had 2 pretty healthy years in a row. Are you in or are you out on Carlos Rodon?
I'm in. I haven't gotten him anywhere just because I tend to wait another round before getting my first pitcher, but I could totally see myself ending up with Carlos Rodon. I think that there are some fears, obviously, around his health, which are valid. I mean, this is a guy who has struggled to stay healthy throughout his entire career. And then there are concerns about the home park, which I don't think are valid because he's a lefty. He only gave up 2 home runs to left-handed hitters last year.
Nice.
So he's very protected against kind of that short porch in right field in Yankee Stadium. And the defense behind him is going to be better because it can't be any worse than it was in San Francisco last year. So I think he's going to be fine in New York as long as he's healthy. So I think it really comes down to what kind of health profile risk you're willing to take that early in the draft. If I'm going to take someone like him, I'm going to pair him with someone I feel very comfortable about the innings, like a Max Fried or even a Julio Urías, who are both in this tier. So I don't mind. I actually really like all 3 of these guys for what they are. And I think that the market is probably a little unfairly biased against all 3 of them.
Well, I will say, perhaps you're not getting Rodon because you're a little against him compared to the market. He's the 11th starter. You do have him ranked 16th, and you can check that out on our new, fresh rankings page. Fangraphs.com. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's a lot to remember. So you go to Fangraphs, you go to, you see where the player search box is, then it says support Fangraphs, then it says fantasy. Under that, 2023 fantasy expert rankings, boom. Now, I don't know where they put my rankings because, if that's where the experts are, I don't know where they put my rankings at, but that's where they can get yours, Chad's, and Jeff's. And they probably put mine, I don't know, on like Not Graphs or something, but maybe you can find mine if you dig around there. Not Graphs was wonderful. But no, you can take a look. We've been kind of hinting at this for a while. It's a great landing page to get all the rankings. You can do different league types, 5x5 points, out of new OBP. We didn't rank out of new. That's Chad. And I think Jake is also going to get his in there, Jake Malloy. And we're going to also have Nicholas Gout's rankings on there soon. So we're adding stuff to it. And there's like a little clipboard next to a bunch of guys under the notes tab there. That's where you can read our little comments about guys. And we're adding those as the season goes too, as draft season goes. And you'll be seeing more sleepers and busts identified as well. So it's a living, breathing document, but the foundation is there. And I'm really, really excited about it. It'll be quick, easy reference. Still going to have articles, like I haven't written up my catchers yet. I'm still going to do that because I want to write up all my catchers and everything. But if you just want rankings, that page is live now. And I'm very, very excited about it. So you're a little lower on Rodon compared to the market. Doesn't mean you're out on him, but maybe that's why you're not getting him is because the market's jumping you on him a bit. Are you interested in maybe moving him up, though?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind moving him up.
I mean, you got Fried right there at 15, and then Urías at 11. So you do like all 3 lefties. You're certainly not out on any of them. I don't think a 5 ranking spot difference between the market and Rodon puts you out on him, but you do have him just a little bit lower. You're more
it's hard because who do you move down?
That's what I was going to ask you. Would you got Verlander 12, Wheeler 14, Castillo 15, 14, and then Fried 15 before Rodon. So that's a pretty tight group there, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you can make the argument that the difference between him and pretty much all the guys going up to Urías in my rank. So between 11 and 16, really 11 and 17 with Spencer Strider being 17, are guys that are interchangeable for the most part. They're their own tier. I just want to say about the ranks. So for those of you on the Patreon, the ranks are now free on Fangraphs. So if you just want the ranks, they're free on Fangraphs. But I put my projections,
and I'm going to put mine in as well.
Did you see what I did with my projections page.
No, hit me with that.
So I have all my projections for hitters and pitchers, and then I have auction dollar values for pretty much every format.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So you have for 10, 12, and 15 team leagues, A and AL, NL only. For Yahoo points, I will have ESPN points separate from Yahoo points up there.
They are a little bit different. Yep.
Yeah, and so like and it's all sortable. So I will be updating those as draft season goes on. Whenever I update my projections, I'll update the dollar values for every single format. So that's available in, I think, the Kevin Gosman tier.
Okay,
that's
the 420
of our
tier.
Patreon. And we're also filling up listener leagues. And
yes.
We've almost got a Dynasty League filled up and a head-to-head Yahoo.
Now, are you going to be in every one of those?
I'm going to try to be in every one.
Okay. I will be in some, I'll be in.
I'm definitely going to be in the Dynasty League and the first Yahoo league that they fill up.
I probably won't be in every single one, but I will be in some as well. Obviously, we want to get in there competing against y'all. I've already had a few people asking, hey, which listener leagues are going to get in? I will scope. I agree with you on wanting to do different formats. So I want to get in there, get some formats that I'm not in. And that way I'm diversifying the old portfolio and trying some things out. So we got that going. You can check that out on the Patreon.
Ooh, and we may do a watch party today too.
Ooh.
If I can figure out where to stream one of the games today. So
what games are today?
There is.
Are they playing like colleges?
I think the Red Sox are playing at college. The Red Sox are playing the University of Washington. The Royals and the Rangers are playing, and the Mariners and Padres are playing.
Already?
So, yeah.
Dang. I didn't even know that was going on. Am I a real baseball fan? Fake baseball fan over here.
I got to figure out how to stream one of them, but if one of them are streamable, we will do that at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Well, it looks like that Huskies Red Sox game is on Nesson, but I don't see a channel listed for the other two, and that's at 1:05 Eastern though. So I don't know. You might have to. I don't know. I honestly, okay. I'm looking at it. I think that's next week. I think it's next Friday.
It is next Friday. Damn it. All right. Well, next week.
So maybe next week then.
We will be streaming one of those games next Friday.
More time to plan too. More time to plan them. Okay. So we continue on. Rodon, Urías, Fried. Urías is your guy there as far as the highest ranked. They're all three in the same tier though. So you're certainly not out on any of them. I have all three in a similar tier as well, where Rodon's my highest at 11, and then 15 for Urías, 16 for Fried. Do we think I do. So I'll say yes to the question before I even ask it. Do you think that this is the year Fried can put that 200 inning season together? He's been kind of hinting at it. I think he's got the talent. Made 30 starts last year, 28 the year before. No major injuries that have derailed him from that. Do you think he can push that 200 inning plateau this year?
I think he can. I also think he's a guy that has more strikeout stuff than he's shown. And I do wonder if guys like him who've been so reliant on ground balls and defense behind them are going to try for more strikeouts given the changes in the shift this year. So he's a guy I really, really like. I just took him for the first time in my most recent draft, and kind of waited, and he was my SP1, and I paired him with somebody, just kind of double tapping on starting pitching right there. I think he is a pretty high floor.
You paired him with Lynn, by the way, and Gilbert.
Lance Lynn and Gilbert, kind of waiting to scrape the bottom of the barrel of the SP1s twos for that team. So yeah, I think he's a guy that offers a pretty high floor. It is a lower ceiling than a lot of the other guys who are going kind of as a late SP1, early SP2. But I'm okay with that.
I think it is up there, though, what you're saying about Fried, because what you just said about how he could add more Ks, that we've seen the swing and miss. It's always been in that 11 to 12% range, which is certainly workable. So he's been, 23, 24% K rate guy, which is not crazy, but it's certainly not bad either. And if he does put that volume together and push up another 15 innings, he had 185 this year, and Fried puts together that 200, say with like a 25% K rate, he's on a great team for win potential. He's got 14, 14, and 17 in his last 3 years. I would say that there is a pretty big ceiling there. I really do believe that Fried can reach some pretty impressive heights. It's not that 30% K rate that we see of some of those mega studs, but I love Fried. So I actually think I think he's got a decent ceiling that maybe is a little bit untapped, and his floor I think is pretty nice too, because if you just kind of get a mixture of the last 2 seasons, no issue with that. An upper 2s ERA with a low 1s whip, 23% K rate. No one's complaining about that from Max Fried. So I really, really like him quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think this entire tier of guys is underrated in the market right now.
With Urías and with the Dodgers in general, you talked about this just now with Fried in regards to the shift and whatnot. Dodgers guys have certainly relied on that, right? We've seen them be BABIP monsters, partly due to what they're doing on the mound, but also maximized by the defensive alignments and things that the Dodgers are doing for them. Do you have any concerns there with Urías because of that? The ERA indicators have never really liked him. They've always had him a run plus higher. And we see a guy or two like this every generation at the high end, that the ERA indicators never get them right, but they continue to outperform because they suppress the hits. And really, I mean, that's the main thing, is that they've found a way to continually have those low BABIPs and keep base runners off via the hit. And he also keeps his walks in check too, 5% and 6% the last 2 years. The kid gloves have come off a bit with 32 and 31 starts the last 2 years as well. Is there maybe a 200 inning season for Urías at age 26 where they kind of let him go even further? And also, are you concerned about the shift situation with him? I guess those could counter each other where, yeah, they give him more volume, but you're worried about the production. Where do you stand on Urías with your projection for him?
I mean, there's a little bit of worry about the shift stuff because, like you mentioned, the Dodgers pitchers, guys like Tyler Anderson, guys like Urías have relied
Especially
so much.
Gonsolin too, by the way.
Gonsolin is a big one. I'm a little less worried about it with Urías as a lefty. And I don't know. He's such a good pitcher, and I think he's one of those guys that can change to kind of suit the needs of his defense, suit the needs of the teams. He's another guy that if the strikeouts went back up, I wouldn't be surprised at all. And he's just been so rock solid. I know everybody every year is always like, oh, he's got to regress. Look at look at what he does. But I think he's one of those guys you were just talking about that just always kind of beats the projections. And
yep.
I feel like he is a massive bargain in the market. And I think he will continue to be a massive bargain. I think while other pitchers go up with huge upsides, he's going to kind of either stay where he is or maybe even go down as draft season goes on. So I'm a big Urías fan from a fantasy perspective. And I think he's a guy that I'm going to have on a lot of my teams because there's going to be drafts where I get him as an SP2 and feel really, really good about my starting rotation.
I would love that. That would have no problem there. All right, let's move on to the untrusted by you specifically and a bit of the market. Shane Bieber.
Mm-hmm.
He's your 23rd starter. The market has him 16th. And then I'm at the high end. I got him 8th. And
wow.
I just don't quite get it. Look, a lot of attention on the velo drop. And this is my note on the projections that you can on the ranking sheet that you can go look at. So much attention on the velo drop glossed over the insane 22% swinging strike rate on his slider plus curve, which is first in baseball, minimum 900 thrown. Bad fastball in Cleveland. I mean, what's new there? Nothing. So I'm not worried that the velo drop. That's all anybody talked about last year, though, and he continued to perform. At some point, maybe the velo drop didn't matter. The last 2 years, that's all that's been talked about with him. And he's gone out and put up 297 innings of a 297 ERA and a 110 whip. Now, I know he had injuries in 2021. That's why he only threw 97 innings, but 200 on the button last year. The K rate did come down, but the swinging strike rate was still excellent at 14%. So I believe the strikeouts can come back up closer to the upper 20s, low 30s range. And I think there's actually upside here. That's why I've got him so high. I really like Shane Bieber, and I'm going to take the market discount all day long. But you're the other way on him. Like I said, 23rd kind of puts you out because even at 16 in the market, you're probably not going to get him there at 23. You should maybe put a little bust tag on him because, again, relative to the market and me, you're quite a bit out on Shane Bieber. What's your concern there?
I mean, I don't necessarily have concerns. Like, my projection's not necessarily bad for him. I think it's just more of a matter of liking other guys more. I mean, I think there are some concerns when you have that velocity drop and you give up the amount of contact he did. He had like almost an 88% zone contact, which you start worrying about. Like, hey, the Guardians can't shift as aggressively as they have in the past, or more balls going to get through the hole. So I do have
Depends
some.
where they're hit.
Yeah, it does, and it's so hard to quantify these things, right? Like we wish there was like a really easy mathematical solution to go, well, every player is going to go up by X%.
Yeah,
But we have no
we
idea.
just don't know with batted ball distributions. You just can't know.
Yeah, it's just, and so it's kind of a little bit of a guessing game. We see the red flags. The red flags are super clear. Like you mentioned, it's all about the loss of velocity. And he's a guy who really does rely a lot on command and control. And as he gets older and shows more of those signs of those red flags, I just get more and more worried.
He's only 28. You talk about Bieber like that. He's only 28. I really like this guy, man.
He throws like a 38-year-old, though.
Well, yeah, but again, bad fastball. It's the Cleveland way. But we saw Kluber continue to succeed with it, and my real only concern with Bieber is the health piece. But again,
but that's my major concern. My concern is that the drop in velocity is a sign that he may not be.
But he threw 200 innings.
I know, and I mean, I still have him as a top 25 starter. And that's saying I'm not out on
garbage or anything, but you're not going to get him.
Because I mean, these ranks are direct reflection of my projections. My original ranks, which were not a direct reflection of projections, had him outside of my top 30 starters. So, like, I took the bias out on him, and that still had him at 23. So, because I've never been a Bieber guy. But I could see myself drafting him if he fell. He won't. If you're in my draft, he won't.
He certainly won't if I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
The breakout ace, ? Luis Castillo got out of Cincy. Great situation for him to get out of because of that park. Not just the team, but really the park, right? Like, we saw how the volatility there related to that park could hurt him. He was beating the park last year, by the way. I'll say that 85 innings of a 2.86 ERA, and he's beat it at other times as well. But there have been other situations where, then the hits were spiking, and then a few homer issues here at times, just kind of up and down, up and down. Then we saw him go to Seattle last year and really dial in. The strikeouts jumped up, the walks came down, the homers stayed in check, and he was great there too. Now, his ERA actually went up, believe it or not, from 2.86 to 3.17 with Seattle, but it was still a 2.99 ERA in 150 innings, 108 WHIP. Going to be 30 years old, first full season with Seattle. Do we see the big 200-plus inning gem season out of Castillo this year? What do you think?
I think it's really possible. And he is a guy that, again, I think my rank on him went up a little bit after I did the projections on him. And I've been kind of torn back and forth because there's part of me that thinks I'm still too low on Luis Castillo. And then there's part of me, it's like, oh man, he has been a whip killer in the past in certain seasons. And not the kind of whip you want to see from your SP1. But he had a 110 whip when he came over to Seattle. And what I really liked from him is if you look through the game logs of when he was in Seattle, he had a lot of games in which he went back to back against teams, right? So
yes,
he went to the Yankees, got beat up a little bit, and then went home against the Yankees and just dominated them. And so when a guy goes National League to American League, you get a little boost because hitters haven't seen him. But if you got to go back to back, they get to see you twice and then he dominates them. That's to me, a really good sign. Something I really like to see. You also saw his zone contact go down. He was getting those swings and misses, like you mentioned. So I am definitely very open to having him as kind of a low end SP1. I think I've got him at 13 or 14 right now.
Yeah, you got him at 14. I actually have Castillo at 20, but I do think this is one of those where it's not an anti-take at all. 185 innings, 208 punchies, 316, 110 ERA whip combo. I got no issues with him, but that's just where the projection put him. And so I guess I'm a little bit closer to being out on him relative to the market that does have him. Let's see. No, they have him at 18. Okay, so I'm not really out. You're a bit
I'm
higher than the
high,
market. Yeah, which I don't think there's anything wrong with. I really do like Castillo. I've been a fan of his from Jump Street in Cincinnati. I really do think that the better park here is going to help him flourish. And I might actually boost his innings a little bit because I do think, he's had some issues. And he had something barking at the beginning. Was it his shoulder or elbow that was barking?
He's always the guy who starts slow.
It was weather. It's weather related.
Which can be an issue in Seattle.
Yeah, with pretty clear, but they can close it, right? They can close the dome.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So, but he had pretty clear weather issues. Luis Castillo did, where you're like, oh wow, he really struggles when the weather. Which, hey, a man after my own heart.
Which also makes sense because if you look, he had two kind of bad starts at the end of the season in September, but they were both on the road. They were both at Oakland and at Kansas City. And then his other home starts, home versus San Diego, home versus Oakland, he was fantastic. So maybe I think often people they say the weather thing, especially about, Hispanic pitchers. And I think that's kind of, not backed up necessarily. It's
like
little stereotyping.
Yeah, because some guys probably like it, right? Like just because they grew up in Latin America doesn't mean that they don't love the cold. But other guys probably aren't as acclimated to it. They're probably more
like
me. But it
seems very likely if you just look at the game logs, like, oh hey,
with Castillo, it's played out. It's been a persistent thing where you can see when the weather gets under 60. Is when he starts to have some struggle. And maybe it isn't even so much like that he's cold and shivering. Maybe it's something with
the
grip on the changeup.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just something simple as that, not that his body melts down or anything. So I don't know. I really like him. I think I might add a few more innings because I got him at 185. Yeah, he did have a little issue last year. 190 is his career high, but all the projections got him in the low 190s. I might jump up there as well because I really do think we could actually see that first 200 inning season from him. And I do think even 5, 6, 7 innings added to the projection would likely boost him up a few spots, get him closer to the market because I really do like Luis Castillo. All right, let's continue forward here and talk about our next guy, which is the next Strider, Cristian Javier, looking like he could be that dude, that two-pitch guy who is just so damn dominant with his two pitches that you kind of don't even worry about the fact that the third pitch isn't there. He was amazing last year, 148 2/3 with a 33% K rate, got the walk rate down to a palatable 9%, down from 13% the year before, 2.54 ERA, 0.95 whip. He's clearly part of this rotation, unquestioned. Is Cristian Javier the next Strider, or do you see a pullback because of the two-pitch situation and a little bit of command issues at times?
Yeah, I'm so torn on him. I wrote him up last night for the ADP market report over on Fangraphs. I did starting pitching last night, and he's a guy that has been rising consistently throughout draft season because he had such an amazing year, and then he doubled down in the playoffs and was fantastic in the playoffs as well. And so he's been continuing to rise. I've not gotten close to where other people have drafted in the drafts that I've been in.
Yeah, we both got him in the 20s, by the way, with Javier, and he's 18th. And in my last check, you said he's going up, so he might even be higher than SP 18 right now.
Yeah, and I have a really hard time because if he carries over the skills that we saw last year, he is a surefire SP1, surefire. I think he's fantastic, especially on a per inning basis. And I don't think innings are going to necessarily be a problem for him because he actually threw a fair amount of innings plus playoffs last year. So my bigger concern is, do the home runs come back? And is he able to maintain that low walk rate that we saw last season? And I feel like it's fair to regress him just because he was so elite in both. And he's shown kind of consistent issue with both of those things throughout his career. And the two-pitch arsenal can lead to some homer problems at times. So I'm a little bit skeptical that he is as elite as he was last year, but I still have him as top 25 starting pitcher because though I'm not out on him, he's a guy that if I do draft him, I want to make sure I have a really safe ace to pair him with.
Yeah, you'd like to get some more safety there. It's hard to ever know who's really safe, but with Cristian Javier, because it is a two-pitch guy who's maxed at 148 innings. you want to be careful there, putting too much on his shoulders for your team. But yeah, I mean, I like him too. I'm not that far off the market. I could see myself winding up with him, but I haven't gotten Cristian Javier yet. The upcoming aces, these guys both have shown a lot. Obviously, the first one, Zach Gallen, had that huge stretch last year that was very ace-like. Alek Manoah's done some excellent things as well. I know you have some concerns about how the park change might hamper him a little bit, but do you see either of these guys, both or neither, becoming fantasy viable aces this year? Alek Manoah and Zach Gallen.
So I've been saying throughout this episode, and I think a lot of last episode is, oh, I haven't gotten this guy. I haven't gotten this guy. I haven't gotten this guy. And that's because I've gotten both of these guys everywhere. I have them way above their ADPs. I love them both.
You got Gallen 10th, by the way, in your rankings. Okay.
So
you put your money where your mouth is there.
Yeah, Zach Gallen is my most rostered pitcher or starting pitcher so far this year. I actually need to stop taking him in drafts because I don't want to be overexposed. But he's just a workhorse, and I do think there's another level for him, and I think he gets kind of overlooked being in Arizona, but Arizona is going to be a better team than they have been. They're getting better and better, and I especially like the defense that they actually have there. Nick Ahmed's going to be back in a somewhat regular role there. Corbin Carroll is a fantastic defender. If they can find time for Alek Thomas, he's a fantastic defender. It's a good park to pitch in. And yeah, he has got a pretty complete arsenal with good command and control. Like it's not like top pitcher in fantasy baseball kind of ceiling, but I think he is an SP1 this year, and I am ranking him as such. The way my projections fell, I actually had to taper down his projections a little bit because I think I had him as like a top 8 starter at one point.
But if you believe in that, why wouldn't you just keep it for Gallen? I mean, I think sometimes I have the same inclination. Sometimes like, oh, I don't know about that, but then I'm like, if I believe in these numbers, I'm going to stick with it.
Yeah. The only times I'm not going to get him, and this is played out in the draft, so the only times I don't get Zach Gallen is when I play the waiting game too long. If I take him where I have him ranked, he will be on all of my teams this year. And same for Manoah.
Yeah, because you have 10 for Zach Gallen, and he's going 22 in the market, I believe. And so, yeah, you're definitely going to get a bunch of Zach Gallen at that range there. And then Gallen's 21, Manoah's 22, and you have them 8 and 10 respectively. So you have Manoah even higher at 8. I got Manoah at 12 as well. So I'm with you on this. I just think he's a workhorse. I do have him for the 200 inning projection. I really think he can get there this year. He was 196 and 2/3 last year, so it's not really that much of a stretch. I think he gets some of those Ks back as well. He did drop from 28 to 23%, but his swinging strike rate only dipped 1.4 points, which is not crazy. So I do think there could be a return of some strikeouts for Manoah. Yeah, the park change is there, but I guess I'm just not that concerned about it. I really, really like Manoah. You have mentioned a few concerns about it, though, because you do have a bunch of Manoah, and then the park change happened afterwards. Are you veering away from him because of it, or to avoid overexposure on Manoah?
Yeah, I mean, overexposure a little bit, but I guess the park change does concern you a little bit any times a guy who's got, a fly ball tilt of, about 41, 42%, and they're bringing in those walls. They're also raising the walls. So I don't know how big. Yeah, I don't know how big of an issue it's actually going to be for a guy like Manoah, especially because he is a guy that does not allow barrels. He's had like a 5% barrel rate each of the last 2 seasons. So he does allow fly balls, but a lot of them are infield fly balls or kind of lazy fly balls. They're not the kinds that get like caught at the wall. So moving in the wall, I don't know that it's going to be as big for him. He's just a workhorse, like you mentioned. He almost had 200 innings last year. I have him projected for 200 innings this year. I do think that we could get more strikeouts. He's one of the guys that I think it would not surprise me if he is the number 1 pitcher, starting pitcher in baseball. He also has that dog in him. And
he got that dog in him, man. He really, really does.
And I know it's a stupid thing, but there is something about the way he approaches pitching that reminds me so much of Max Scherzer that makes me go this guy could easily be return first round value. And And I've paired Manoah and Gallen on teams as my SP1-2s in like the 5th, 6th rounds of draft and start off with an amazing offense, and then pair them in the 5th, 6th round, and felt really, really good about my draft. So I like both of them. They're going to continue to end up on a lot of my teams.
Yeah, I really don't have an issue being pretty hot on Manoah this year. I'm with you there. I'll definitely end up with some. I think I have one share of him already, and I'll continue to get more. Let's talk about the dads, the Padres, couple guys that rank high here. Joe Musgrove, Darvish. Obviously, Darvish signed that extension recently. Joe Musgrove been kind of doing his thing out there for a while. Maybe it's just because I'm not like enamored with either of them. They feel kind of like boringly solid. I feel like people just take them and like, okay, cool. I got Manoah, or excuse me, I got Darvish, or I got Musgrove here. Musgrove is the 23rd starter off the board. Darvish is the 24th. They're both top 25 guys. They're not bad. They're not like forgotten, but I don't think anybody's like bending over backwards to acquire either of them. But both are really good. I've actually got Darvish at 17 on my board. You got him 26, and then Musgrove 24 to your 25. So we're right in line with the market there. I'm a little bit higher on Darvish. I know he's a bit older, but he's just so damn good, man. I don't know. I love you, Darvish, and maybe I just got a soft spot for him. The 185 innings is probably the sketchiest part of my projection there, just because he's had some health issues in the past. How do you feel about the two dads, Darvish and Musgrove?
I think Musgrove's listening to the podcast going, why are you calling me a dad?
He's like, I don't have a kid. And he doesn't know what Padre meant.
Yeah, I'm only 30. So I think they're both fine. Like,
yeah, so you got the same vibe I'm talking about, where they're just like,
you're not super excited. I think the problem with Musgrove is everybody thought Musgrove, including myself, thought Musgrove was going to take this massive leap, right? And we saw it kind of in 2021, where he threw 181 innings with a 3.18 ERA, but he had that 27% strikeout rate. And we saw in the shortened season we saw a 33% strikeout rate, and you're like, okay, here it is. This is the Joe Musgrove we've been waiting for. And then last year was kind of like, it was fine. He
gave back a little on the Ks, but then he put up another 180 huge innings, right? So yeah, it does seem a little unfair that we're kind of acting like he didn't come through there, but Musgrove did put up another strong season.
I feel like I'm sleeping on Musgrove a little bit too much. Like, the floor is so safe. Like, I just think the floor is so safe. I think the argument against Darvish is the floor is not safe. I think the upside is great because
it's only health though, right? With Darvish,
it's health.
36.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's totally health and age. But I mean,
the last three full seasons for Darvish are full 31, 30, 30 starts.
And so, I thought I was like drunk or dreaming when I saw the Padres signed him to a 6-year extension.
That was interesting.
Like, what? I mean, I love Darvish and everything.
They really committed, huh?
He's 36 and they gave him 6 years.
I know. Maybe they know something that we don't. He found the fountain of youth out there.
They could have given Carlos Rodon 6 years.
San Diego's a great place to live. But yeah, 6 years, 108 mil.
He's not only going to retire in San Diego, they're going to bury him there.
Right. I mean, that's pushing him until he's 42. We've seen some guys be unicorns there. It'd be really interesting, right? Because, like, again, he had a lot of health concerns after his first couple of years in the States. But then, like I said, lately, he has developed into a bit of a workhorse. Like, the innings totals aren't off the charts at 179, 166, and 195. But like I said, 31, 30, and 30 starts for Darvish in those 3 seasons, 2019, 21, and 22. He just gets it done, man. And, I guess there's a little sketchiness with the age, but the market's still paying for him. SP24. I have no problem with either of these guys. I want them as my SP2, of course, maybe SP3 if I'm really stacking up, but I'll roster them without incident at all.
I think they're nice guys as complementary pieces to whatever your SP1 is, right? If I end up with like a Shane McClanahan who's got huge upside, but some health risk, then Joe Musgrove makes a lot of sense to pair him with, right? A guy that is going to give you innings, and they're going to be really good innings. And if you have a guy that, like a Sandy Alcantara, maybe a Musgrove with that strikeout rate and a little bit more risk, is a nice pairing there. So I think it kind of depends on where your pairing is, but I think they're both, like you said, real viable SP2s.
Absolute studs there out in San Diego, the dads.
Mm-hmm.
The workhorse, your boy, Framber Valdez. Price is up now. People know what he can do. SP25, not egregious, but no longer kind of that sneaky bargain there. I got him at SP28. You have him at SP18, so you're still in on your guy. Innings is what you're getting here, right? And we've only seen it the one time because he had that injury, that finger injury that cost him the early part of 2021. But once he got back, he put up 135 innings, for the remainder of the year, and he was that consistent going 6+ inning guy. That's the beauty with Framber. And again, it makes you should be careful about getting too upset about his strikeout rate, because when you put up the volume, you still get the raw Ks. And at the end of the day, that is what matters, not your rate, unless you're playing a K9 or a K percentage league. So you had 194 Ks last year. There's nothing wrong with that from Framberto. Keeps the ball in the yard. 0.5 homer per 9 is the AL best. So were his 201 innings, 3 complete games was an AL best. Framber's a dude. He's a workhorse. You betting on another 200 innings from him this year?
I am, but I'm very tentative about pulling the trigger. And
should you move him down then?
Probably. I'm super concerned about the shift with him. He's a guy
because he's ground ball god.
Yeah, he is a ground ball god, and you look at his splits between shift and not shift, and they're not pretty. No shift, he gets kind of eaten up, whereas he has really benefited from the shift. So he's a guy that really could struggle. Now, I think the Astros are one of the smartest organizations in baseball, and they will figure out ways to help him kind of mitigate those issues. And again, it's not a banning of the shift; it's just a minimizing of the shift.
Yeah, you can't stack your whole team on one side of second base.
Yeah, so I think he will end up being fine, but I do have concerns, and those concerns have prevented me from actually getting him in a draft. And so I think I think he's one of the guys that you kind of look at and you go, well, if I take a really risky starter SP1, then he's the guy I want to pair him with. And I don't actually know if that's the case. I think do
you have your projections handy?
I do.
What do you got for Framber on the innings, ERA and WHIP?
I have him for 200 innings.
Okay.
And I have him for a 3.11 ERA and a 1.17 WHIP.
All right, so you're actually a little bit higher on the ERA. I got a 3.08, but I have a 1.21 WHIP. So we're not that far off. I think the innings are probably our biggest difference there. I got 187, which I think is totally fine. I didn't quite push him for the 200 again. I wonder. I mean, I don't even know what you would necessarily maybe raise. You raise the WHIP a little bit then. If that's
I think you raise the WHIP and maybe even raise the ERA a little bit. I also think he's a guy that could get more strikeouts if that's what the aim is, and maybe he tries to go for a few more strikeouts. But
he's got double-digit swinging strike rates. I mean, exactly. It's 10-11, and usually the shorthand is to double that for an expected strikeout rate. So he's been within that expected strikeout rate. But if you are at the 10-11 mark, there's no reason you can't push a 24-25% strikeout rate. And maybe the thinking here with Framber is that he pushes for a few more Ks instead of just taking that easy ground ball, because it's not as easy now with no shift or less of a shift, as we've highlighted regularly throughout this offseason. So I could see that. But I mean, maybe just if you're not taking him at 18, maybe you have to lower him a little bit to express those concerns that you do have. You're not out on him because, again, the market doesn't have him at 18. But you do have a little concern.
Part of the issue for me is that there's guys, I think this is kind of like the Zach Gallen and Alek Manoah. There are other guys going behind him that I have right next to him. And so I'm always going to end up with Lance Lynn. I'm always going to end up, with other guys in that area kind of over him, just because I'm getting a much bigger discount in the market than Framber, even though I'm higher than the market on Framber. I
think that's fair. And I'm eager to see how he does this year, because he's a good pitcher, and piling up those innings can definitely work, but you are now paying full price for him. The skinny legend, Triston McKenzie, built like your boy, perfect body comp. I love him out there, Dr. Sticks, as they call him. The biggest issue here, and I do have some nerves about him. I love the season that he put up. I was able to cash in on it, had him on a couple teams, including the main event team, and he really helped me out there, especially when Ian Anderson was gagging all over the place. McKenzie's breakout softened that blow, and he did put up 191 innings. That was really, really nice. That is the biggest concern, though, is can his stop sign like frame live up to 190 innings this season? We've seen it once. Does that mean we see it again? He dealt with tons of injury issues coming up. I do have a bit of a concern paying full price for McKenzie. I want to support my fellow stick figure. We stand together, but a strong wind can blow us over. And I think that I'm pulling back a little bit on McKenzie. I got him down at 32 just because I'm not quite sure that we're seeing another 190 plus innings. I like the talent. I think the inning per inning performance will be there, but I just don't know about the volume with McKenzie given his injury history. And I know I've talked repeatedly about how we can't predict injuries that well. I'm not going to overly crush somebody for injuries. And I don't think I'm overly crushing him. I put him at 177 innings, but I do have to give some credence to somebody who is chronically injured. And last year was kind of his first year without anything. And so that's kind of where I stand with McKenzie. Well, what say you with regards to the Cleveland starter?
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I also know that he has had a kind of reoccurring home run issue. And so I just worry, like I couldn't get him back near to like the, what do you have, 191 and a third last year?
And you got him 42 on your board, by the way.
Yeah, I know. I put him at 160, or give him 165
or 41. Excuse me. 165. Okay, yeah. I mean the projection set here, and I know that like they don't all have individual playing time projections. For example, the Bat uses ATC, Steamer uses our depth charts. I forget what.
Steamer and depth charts are the same projection with different playing times. So
that's what it is.
Depth charts is Jason Martinez's playing time at roster resource.
The lowest is Zips at 162, 162 innings. Everyone else is a $180 plus on McKenzie, and I want that to be right, but I do have concerns. Again, this is when it comes to chronic injuries, somebody who's just repeatedly injured, I am going to give that a bit more credence. It's like the one-off injury guy that I'm not going to freak out and say, oh, he's injury prone and got to bump his innings. But somebody who consistently has these issues, I will have some concerns there. And 120 innings last year, or 140 if you include his AAA innings. And then back in he missed all of 2019. Back in 2018, it was 91 innings. 2017, 143 innings, which is a pretty full minor league season, but that's back, it's 6 years ago now. I can't quite get him to anything but the high 170s for Triston McKenzie.
I also have concerns about him seeing a more balanced schedule. He got a really, really light schedule, not just pitching in the Central, but just the way the games fell for him, especially in the second half, where he really dominated. And so I wonder if now that he's going to be seeing more teams from other divisions and from the National League, like, is he gonna have struggles in terms of don't you dare
besmirch him. Counterpoint: winning percentage of 500 or better, 84 innings of a 237 080 whip. He dominated the good teams. I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense in principle, but then you look at it and the numbers say, hey, when he faced those teams, he was unflinching. The Twins actually got him and beat him up a little bit. 31 innings, 5.46 ERA. He rocked the Sox. He rocked the Royals.
Those were the early games against the Twins, and then when the Twins had nobody like healthy, like he dominated them late.
That's so fine.
I was just looking at the second half, because the second half is what really propelled him into being such like a really great fantasy asset last year. And like you look at like, oh, he got to play like the beat up White Sox and the beat up Twins and the Royals and the Orioles, and it's like, oh, okay,
he cooked in Coors. He beat up the Astros twice. He went into Toronto, stood tall. He went to Seattle, and they're a playoff contender late in August. He put up a baseline quality start. Played Baltimore well at home. I mean, I hear.
He cooked all season long. He had 2 bad starts against that back-to-back start in late June against the Twins,
and that was
actually really good all year.
As McKenzie we're still talking about. I want to highlight one thing that you did bring up that is an issue, though, the home runs.
Yeah.
And when he's off, home runs are there. And even in this great season, 1.2 homer 9, which is a little high. And if he gives back some of that command that he showed this year with a 6% walk rate, those turn into 2 and 3 run homers instead of solo shots. That is enough of a concern there to hold that over his head. 357 Sierra, 359 FIP compared to the 296 ERA. So I think we have some valid concerns. I think you're more out on him than I am because I got him 32. You got him 41. And
I should probably move him up a little bit. I think maybe I'm a little unfair on the innings.
I mean, I got him in the 170s. I still couldn't go 180 plus on McKenzie. The market says SP 26 though, and I am a little bit nervous to pay full freight.
There's no way I can get close to that. Yeah.
So even if you do move him up, I think you're still going to end up being out. And I consider myself a fan, and I'm not in compared to the market either.
Like I look at his just baseline projection of about a strikeout an inning, a 3.55 ERA, and a 1.09 WHIP. Like I don't think that's out of pocket, but that's where he ends up him at starting pitcher 42. I think this is just more of a matter of I like other guys more than him. It's
and the 165 innings too, though, because if you gave him 10 more, he's moving up 8 spots.
If I gave him 185, like I gave Brady Singer, he'd probably be ahead of Brady Singer.
I bet he jumps up. Exactly. All right, the biggest risk reward guy out there, I think, in this general top 30-ish type level, he's going SP 27. So is Tyler Glasnow. Now there's other guys going higher that they have some concerns too. Strider's SP 6 or whatever, but he's done it. Glasnow's never done it, but the market is ready to be hurt again. SP 27 is a big layout for somebody who's made 100 innings once as a major leaguer, and that was back in 2018. And it wasn't even that good because the Pirates innings weren't very good. And then that was when he got traded over that year. And he was all right with the Rays that year. But that's the only time he's ever been over 100 major league innings. He had 88 in 2021, which were excellent. But then he was felled by injury yet again. And he only had 6 2/3 last year coming back from injury. I think it's because he's hot. If he was ugly, no shot. No shot.
Where is he going SP-wise in the market?
27.
You have him at 22.
Top 100 pick. Oh yeah, I'm in.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm in. No, I'm part of the problem.
Oh yeah, because I mean, I love listening to other podcasts, right? I think there's some people who are like, oh, I don't want to listen to other podcasts because I don't want to be influenced. But I mean, I started
Are their convictions that shaky that they listen to somebody else and I got to do everything that this guy says?
I'm
talking shit.
I think they want to be original. And I don't mind not being original
too, but I love listening to baseball.
I think you can say what you want about me as an analyst or a fantasy player, and I think I'm about as original as they come. So I'm not super worried about being influenced. And I listen to some really smart guys in the pitching world. Our boy Nick Pollock, our boy Saras, and everybody keeps talking about him being a top 15, top 25 starter.
You know why?
Why?
Because he only needs 125 innings to do it. He's one of those guys, Glasnow is, that even on the small sample, for example, I mentioned Strider a moment ago. Kershaw's another one last year. There's a few guys last year that were top 30 guys with a relatively tiny sample. And I do think that he can be one of those dudes. I really do. I mean, Gonsolin was the 7th pitcher with 130 innings last year. Let's see here. Cristian Javier, 148 innings, and he was the 14th pitcher. I mentioned who were the two? Strider. Strider was 131 innings, and he was SP 19. Kershaw was SP 17 with 126 innings. Glasnow can be a top 25 guy. He doesn't even have to go that much above 100. Now, I understand. I just got done saying he's only gone over 100 once. And so there is risk there. But when he pitches, he is excellent. I think we have seen now, at least these last, 3 seasons of work, 19, 20, 21, which are all small samples. So I will include the 20 because that's one of his bigger samples. It's 206 innings of a 280, 098 with 290 strikeouts. So I think we're getting drunk on, and I include myself. Like I said, I got him 22. I'm in because I think if you can get to the 120 innings even, he's going to return this price.
He's never gotten the 120.
I know. I understand.
I don't understand how people can
project
him for it. Like, he's coming off of a year where he threw 11 innings if you include the postseason.
Tommy John honeymoon, baby.
But Tommy John isn't the Tommy John honeymoon doesn't protect you from other injuries. He's had other injuries. Like, he's constantly been injured. And here's the thing. I know, like, the 5 postseason innings were really, really good, where he really looked like himself. He was fantastic, right? Do we even know what Tyler Glasnow is without sticky tack? Because we have to remember, he got hurt, like, literally when, and really attributed getting hurt to not having the sticky stuff on his hands.
I think Eno has suggested that the sticky stuff's kind of back.
Yeah,
that regulation isn't really as tight anymore. That guys are finding ways. He's got those long flowing locks. He can put a little something in there. We saw Joe Musgrove, just go to the ear a little bit. I mean, I think there's ways around that. I really think it's a situation where, because Glasnow, doesn't need to get a full season, doesn't need to get 30 starts and 170 innings to be this good, that it kind of goes back to my principle of, like, we don't really have a firm enough handle on predicting injuries. And he's been chronic. Again, I understand that. But the upside is still massive.
Yeah, I totally understand that the upside is massive.
So it's worth taking the shot for a lot of people, because, like,
if you're in a 10-team league, do it. If you're even in a 12-team league with IL spots, and not super deep,
I'm going to do it in a 15-team league too.
I think it is such a bad process. And this may be a situation I've talked about recently that not only am I going to do this year's Cedric Mullins article, I'm going to do a bunch of this year's blank players articles. And some of them are going to be funny, like this year's Aaron Judge, the guy I fade that completely goes on to have a historic season or whatever, and one of them is going to be this year's Justin Verlander, because Justin Verlander, I faded for all the right reasons last year, and he just went out and shoved anyways. And Tyler Glasnow
You faded him for the right reasons, though.
I did fade him for the right reasons. I think the process is still right, but the results, they didn't work out for me. And I'm okay fading guys like that.
Unicorns, baby. Gotta watch out for them unicorns.
There are unicorns, but I'm not going to account for them all the time. So I think this is a situation in which I'm completely going to fade Tyler Glasnow. I have him, like, outside of my top 40 starters. There is no way I can get him. He will be my first throw.
What's your projection for him?
Probably like 7 innings.
I mean, it better be like double-digit innings.
I have to scroll down.
Because that's the only way that works, to have him that low, is double-digit innings.
All right. So I have him at SP 47. And I have him for 130 innings.
What the hell is his performance in 130? I'm sorry, your projection's rough then.
I have him for 165 strikeouts, a 3.46 ERA, and a 109 WHIP.
I just think that ERA is too high. The 109, sub 110 WHIP, cool. But why a 346? If you got him for 130 innings, I thought you were going to have him for like 82 innings, which I would have understood more. So you're projecting him to set a new high in innings too. So how can it be that wrong that we are, those of us that are bought in on him, if we're putting Glasnow for 120 plus innings as well? You're doing the same. We just believe more in the performance. So it's actually a performance disagreement, which you lose me there. You got me. If you're going to say,
I mean, he's a career 4 ERA guy.
That you really think that's who he is? Are you really going to use that Pittsburgh numbers? He's 305.99 as a Ray. Do I even care about the Pittsburgh? I literally could not care less on those. So if I'm going a $130 innings, I really think you gotta consider a lower ERA.
But even if I drop him to, like, bring him in line with other projection systems, which is a 330, I don't think that changes.
I also think your Ks are too low. Why 11 Ks per 9? He's 12-2 with the Rays. He was 12-6 in 2021, 14-3 in 20, 11-3 in 2019.
I'm accounting for if he does go 130 innings. I didn't feel comfortable giving him 80 innings because I think he will, probably get close to his career high, if not go over it, right? And so I gave him 130, even though I do feel a little uneasy about even giving him 130. He's in a contract year. The Rays have nothing tied to him after this year.
Yeah, I think they're going to let. I think they're going to let.
I think they will give him an
opportunity.
Yeah, I think we'll give him an opportunity to go. We don't know how he is going to fatigue, right? Like, we don't know. Like, is he a guy that loses stuff, loses command as the season goes on? Because we've never seen him get to a point in a season where he's over 100 something innings. And so
I understand, but
he's
just been so great with the Rays that I'm going to take that shot.
I totally understand, and more power to you, better you than me. But I think it is a mistake to say he's going to be this elite guy that we've seen in double-digit inning totals over the course of a triple inning digit total. Hey, this is one of those situations where if I'm wrong and you're right, you have him too low. Like, if you believe he can get to 150 in terms of innings and keep this stuff,
I put him. I can put 145, so just 5 shy of that.
Okay.
I mean, I put a 2.92 ERA and a 0.99 WHIP. I don't think I have him too low at 22. Like, again, those guys I mentioned that were under these 150 innings totals and able to really still put up a top 20 something season. The highest guy was Glasnow because of his hit rate was just off the charts. And so I don't, I guess there could be a DeGrom type thing where what was it when he had 96 innings? He was like the third best pitcher still, which is absolutely bananas. So I don't know that I have him too low if he gets to 145. I'm comfortable having him at 22 though.
I have a hard time, and I know we're spending a lot of time on Tyler Glasnow.
That's right. I mean, he's a pivotal player. I think he really is.
I have a hard time not only projecting. I have a hard time projecting a guy we've never seen do it.
But you did. That's where I disagree with you, is because you are doing that by giving him. You would have me much more sold if you gave him 85 innings projected.
All right, I'll drop him 85.
I mean, you don't have to. I'm just saying, because your biggest issue is the innings.
Why is Justin's rank of Tyler Glasnow at 69? That is not nice.
Well, it is not very nice that he dropped.
I'd probably drop him lower. I'd probably have him outside my top 80 or something like that.
At 88 innings, it would drop him quite a bit unless you made his ERA like 240 or something. So we'll see. He's going to be one of those guys that I don't like to throw this around too much with the league winner stuff, but he could be. He really could be there, but he's not cheap either. So like he could be a league winner, but you're paying for it. SP27 is a shell out for Glasnow. But I think these are worthy debates to kind of figure out where we're at. The feedback I got is that people like debates like this. So yeah, we did spend a lot of time on him, but I don't think we have a hard out today. So I think we can continue to go and continue to talk about a handful more starters here.
For me, if when I'm taking my SP2, which is where he's going as an SP2, and he probably will go higher.
But you can make him your SP3, and I think he will go higher in March. I agree with that on Glasnow.
I want safety. I want relative.
That's a myth, though. That's a myth. That's the whole thing that I've been trying to hammer.
I understand it's a myth in terms of like you can't predict injuries and things like that. But there are guys who are just inherently safer than others because of their track record. And Tyler Glasnow has shown his track record, not just coming off of Tommy John.
You say inherently. That's the perception is that they are, but we don't know. And so I don't like to, it comes down to a measure of degree, right? Like you think he's this much safer. I think someone like George Kirby is this much safer. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I think whoever, I just pick somebody that's like right behind him. But I think I'm proven year in, year out that I'm not wrong, because we see guys that are healthy get hurt because that's pitching. And again, I've said this
but we also see guys who aren't healthy just not be healthy. Mike Soroka, Jacob deGrom, like
sure.
Like I think you can find,
but I will take the risk because the upside is worth it, right? Nothing is certain. Nothing is certain.
I will take the risk later in the draft. I'd rather
but it won't be this high of upside.
Andrew Heaney disagrees.
Oh my God, Andrew Heaney, give me a break. All right, we will move on then. Tyler Glasnow. And again, you didn't factor in how hot he is, so that moves him up 5 ranks.
And see that I forgot to put that in my projection.
You got to put the hotness in your projection.
You're right.
That really moves him up. Killian Murphy lookalike there. All right, so our next 3 ones are just groups of pitchers on the same team that are happening to go by each other. So let's do the Mariners talk. It's been talked about a lot in the community this year because they got 3 guys going really near each other. After, by the way, how good could their rotation be? We talked about Castillo.
Their rotation,
and now we got 3 guys right here: George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, and Robbie Ray. All 3 going by each other.
And
they
if
offer you different things.
Matt Brash turns into even a halfway decent starter. Even
are they going to start him?
They're giving him an opportunity to start.
Okay, I thought they were going to commit to him.
I think he still ends up in the bullpen.
Yeah, I don't think it'll work, but his stuff is nasty. And if they could get any command,
5.
Oh, I know. If they get a shred of command for Matt Brash, it could be over for the AL West. But the 3 guys that are going there, Kirby, Gilbert, Ray, they offer you different things, right? The 2 command artists, and then the guy who Robbie Ray has upped his control, but I still wouldn't call it command. I think he shows the difference between command and control. He fills the zone now. He doesn't walk everyone. He trusts his stuff, but he still doesn't always know where the ball's going. And that's what command is. And he's a home run machine still. But, he had the Cy Young season. I thought his follow-up was fine. I expected a pretty big drop-off, and he went from the 284, 104 to 371, 119 in 189 innings. I thought that was totally fine because that was kind of where my expectation was of Ray. But you got these 3 guys here. Who's your favorite, and any of them that you're hard targeting between Kirby, Gilbert, and Ray? And for those watching, I am going to run because I have some groceries on the porch real quick that I'm going to get. So you lay out on these guys, and I'll be right back.
Yeah, I am hard targeting both Gilbert and Kirby. And Gilbert is the one that I seem to end up with the most because he tends to go a little bit later in the market than a guy like Kirby. But I like them both. I think they both can be really, really good this year. I think they both have really good arsenals, really good command and control. I think the thing that gives me a little bit more excitement about a guy like Logan Gilbert over George Kirby is the fact that Logan Gilbert threw a ton of innings last year already, whereas Kirby is still kind of building up that innings workload. So I'm totally fine targeting either Kirby or Gilbert. Gilbert's just the guy that I end up with because of the innings, and he goes a little bit later in drafts to begin with already. Ray, I'm just a little scared of.
Yeah, and I think it's understandable because, again, the home runs haven't gone anywhere. And
it's really interesting. He actually had a lower barrel rate last year. And had
maybe he's giving up some cheapies, but again, he's filling the zone. He's not walking guys as much. He gave back some of the walk rate from 6.7 to 8 flat. But he used to be a double-digit walk rate guy like all the time. And I heard you. I got caught the tail end there where you said you prefer Gilbert because of where he's going. You got him 30th. Yeah,
Gilbert threw 180 something innings last year,
and there's a pretty decent divide.
Sorry. Yeah, Gilbert threw 180.
There's a pretty decent divide between Kirby and Gilbert in the market where I see them much more similarly. I think some people are really in on Kirby being a standard deviation or 2 better than Gilbert. And I'm not quite seeing it. Like, I understand some of the issues that Gilbert had last year, but you talk about having that dog in him the way we said with Manoah. And I know that's an intangible type thing, but I really do see that bulldog mentality. And that's coming from, anecdotal watching a few starts where the situation got sticky for Gilbert and he worked his way out of it, right? I could just as easily see a start where he got runners on and the floodgates open and he gave up 4 runs, right? So I understand that, like, I'm not putting too much into that whole dog in him theory, but I do think that Gilbert has it. And I do think he has and when I say it, I just mean that quote unquote the command and control, the ability to fight. And I do think there's some more upside to the K rate for both these guys. What surprises me about the Kirby love is he had a sub 10%. I mean, if you round it, it's 10% swinging strike rate, but 9.7 was the actual figure. That gives me a little bit of concern about his strikeouts. I guess if they see the slider coming forward and getting more swings and misses, I can see that. But that is a projection because it's not in there right now with a 9.7. At least Gilbert was at 10.8, call it 11% on the swinging strike rate. So I prefer Gilbert a little bit more as well. I like Kirby. Actually, no, I'm lying. Kirby is higher in my projections, but I have them very close.
How many my issue with Kirby is versus Gilbert is, and I mean, I literally have all three
Kirby
of these guys.
for $180.
I have, well, are you after only throwing 130? Do you think he's going to get 50 more innings?
I think so.
Okay,
I think he's efficient, but I put Gilbert.
I have him for 175, so like I'm right there with you.
I put Gilbert for 197.
Yeah, I put 180, I think, for Gilbert.
You were going to say how close you have all three. I have all three. How close is it? Because I have all three in a tight 10-person range.
And remember, I literally, these are just like, I did my projections, let the projection spit out the number, and then copy paste it, right? So like I have Kirby 30, or sorry, I have Gilbert 30, Kirby 31, Robbie Ray 32.
I love it.
Literally,
I love it.
Not on purpose at all ended up right next.
I love when that happens though, because we are doing numbers, so it's not something that we're like saying, oh, we're going to rank these guys together because they're on the same team. It's just where the numbers are coming out. So okay, I think I'm looking at it right now. And somebody asked me this in my chat about like, I like these debates that you guys are doing on the pod, but like, is it wrong for you to like change your projections on the fly? It's like, well, I don't have an algorithm, right? Like these are. So when I hear a point,
we're not smart.
Yeah.
So
we're
like
idiots.
the reason why like Paul's still finishing up his projections and mine like took forever to do is because we're not just pressing a button and just spitting out the number. We're actually having to sit there.
And by the way, that's not dogging out the people who do that. They have a system that's great, but
they're smart
by hand. Yeah, we're taking.
I wish I was as smart as them and could I wish I could just press a button and it populates everything for me.
That would have been nice, but this is fun, and I've enjoyed the process.
Me too.
I think I put a little bit too high on Gilbert's ERA because I do think he can improve on where his Sierra is. I don't have him improving on his ERA from last year, which was 3.20, but I had him pretty close to his Sierra, which is 3.84.
I have him 3.55.
Yeah, so I got closer to that there. I just shaved off a couple runs. I just think he's a little bit better than that, and I wanted to tighten the gap between those two because I really do feel myself. I've been taking Gilbert more than Kirby, although I have both. I have both on one team too. I said, you know what, go Mariners. Okay, so I moved a few runs off of Gilbert's total, and now I have them 2 spots apart. So you will see that reflected probably by the time you're listening to this. I'll re-upload into the tool, and you'll see Kirby and Gilbert very close. Breaking news. What do we got?
Lance McCullers is experiencing some arm soreness and is being shut down.
Oh, shit. This water's wet.
It's Hunter Brown time, though, baby.
Hell yeah, babe.
Shout out to Jason Collette in our little group chat. And he's the one who sent that and said Hunter Brown's going to move up 75 spots in ADP.
I mean, I was already moving. I'm already like on that Brown train. So I'm glad I got some shares already because I know that price is going to rise. I tell you what, I am on this alone. I mean, I should get some details before I just wildly move it. But I think I'm going to move. How many innings you got Brown for right now?
I don't know. I've got him really low. So
I got a $1.11, and I think I'm gonna move him up to like 1.25. Just on that alone.
I legit can't find him on my ranking sheet right now. So
do you hate Hunter Brown?
Oh, he's like right in front of me. I have him for 100 innings.
100 innings flat?
100 innings flat, yeah.
Okay, so that's not bad. I'm a little bit more aggressive, but like nothing crazy there. I love Hunter Brown though. I'm really, really excited for him this year. You have him 116 in your rankings. I had him 80. He's obviously going to move up from 80 there if I give him those extra 14 innings, but I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I think I need.
Even though McCullers isn't even out yet, by the way, maybe I'm overreacting a little bit.
I should probably move him up from 100 because I mean he threw 126 between AAA and and I don't think he's. I think he's starting in the majors, right? Like he's not.
I think so. I think he's going to be out of the bullpen for them. I even threw him. I sauced him a couple saves, which definitely helps his projection. Just because I could see him getting some like 2-3 inning saves there if he is in that hybrid role. Obviously, if McCullers is injured and we start the season with Brown,
and it's not like your Urquidy is like huge like roadblock, right?
As much as I like him, the health. You want to talk about somebody who has been persistently hurt.
My only concern,
not that good either.
Yeah, it's not that good part that really is an issue.
And I've liked him. I've looked for. I've seen a path to improvement for Urquidy. He just hasn't taken it. Like he fell back last year in just about everything, and he was decent, 394, 117. You're not upset with that for 164 innings, but I felt like, okay, you got the arsenal, you got some swing and miss, take that jump, and his strikeout rate went down from 21 to 20. So that was kind of annoying.
I think the only issue with that is like, does Urquidy stuff play up at all in the bullpen?
I mean, everyone's does a little bit, but yeah, not that much. I hear what you're saying. Whereas Brown becomes a god out of the bullpen.
Yeah, exactly. So I just worry about that. But yeah, I think I need to project him for more innings, and maybe actually even lower his whip a little bit.
I gave him $1.25, and then I have a 3.43, 1.22 ERA whip for him.
Yeah, I got him as like a 1.26 whip.
Honestly, my ranking is definitely influenced by 8 wins and 2 saves. Like it sounds like not that much, but as we've told y'all a bunch, you put in a win or two, and all of a sudden, the guy can
I got him at 6. Yeah, I've got him at 6 wins.
And I think if he is relieving though, Brown is viable in deeper mixers, and of course AL only. He'll be awesome because he's going to get some of those sneak wins. And I would never project the reliever for this because some reliever does it every year, but you can never know who. But he could be that 12-win guy. Like if he ends up relieving most of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if Brown had like 12 wins and 3 saves in 108 innings or something like that. So all right, well that's McCullers there. That was a little breaking news. Via Jason. Let's go to the 2 Yankees, the lefty and righty combo there, Nestor Cortes and Luis Severino. Now, Cortes got a little bit of bad news. He's not going to pitch for the WBC American team because of a hamstring issue. And so that's kind of a bummer, but I didn't move anything off of him. I didn't move him down off of that. I didn't take any innings off because that's just like a slower start to his spring. And I don't think that that's reason to just say, boom, you're out. He's just being smart about taking care of himself and saying, okay, I'm going to skip the WBC. Let me get this hamstring under order. So unless he has a setback in March, I'm not moving anything off of that. What did you do to the Nestor Cortes? Was there any reaction to the hamstring news for you, or did you leave him as well?
I left him as well. I think you're going to see a few of these kind of issues. Some guys are going to throw
just little things pop up and people get so scared because it's the first news of the year. DeGrom, side tightness. Oh my God, move him down. There's so much overreaction.
I dropped DeGrom out of my top 200 starters with that. Like,
you can't have that side tightness.
I'm not going to drop guys based on we haven't even seen guys on mountains yet.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm not gonna. If there is a real issue, I think the one that bothers me a little bit is the Felix Bautista news. That one scares the crap out of me
because I love him too.
I do too, and so he's one. Okay, now I'm gonna wait until I see you on a mound, and there are guys like that. There are gonna be guys where I go, I'm not gonna draft you until I see you pitch, or see you hit or whatever. But I'm not super worried about Nestor Cortes at all. I'm not worried about Luis Severino. I think Luis Severino is going to get unleashed a little bit this year. He is a free agent at the end of the year as well. I think Nestor Cortes has shown that his wonky delivery and pitch timing just screws with people and kind of overplays his stuff a little bit, which is fantastic. And I love watching him pitch.
But also, in fairness to Cortes, he's got a good swing and strike rate. He's not just up there on deception. 11% is solid. It does overplay though, like you said, 11% netting a 27% K rate. But and he doesn't walk anybody either, which is always so huge.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I do wonder if at some point he things catch up to him a little bit, but especially pitching in Yankee Stadium. But I think ultimately, he's a pretty safe bet as long as he's healthy. I'm not super worried about the hamstring issue. If it was an arm issue, I'd probably be a little bit more worried about it. But
I still wouldn't even be worried until we get to March and they say that, because right now everything's still on track for Nestor to reach opening day. And I don't know if he has the opening day start, but you know what I mean. Be there when things kick off.
He's definitely not the opening day starter.
With Sevy, Cole, Rodon. He's probably fourth. Cole, Rodon, Sevy, and then him. With Sevy, 102 innings last year in the return. First time we've seen a volume out of him in quite some time, since 2018. What do you got him for innings this year? You pushing him? You saying that okay, they're going to turn him loose 160, 170. You be more cautious on a 140, 150. Where do you at on Luis Severino's innings?
I put him 155. I felt like that was somewhat aggressive, but also giving me some room to play with. But I think he's a guy that if he throws 180, I'm not going to be surprised at all. And I think whatever he throws, it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
I've got him as a 3.37 ERA, a 109 WHIP, and that might even be downplaying what his actual skills are because he's legitimately never really been bad.
No,
and I'm a huge. Awesome. I think the real question is how many innings do we think he gets? Because if he's a 180 guy, then I think he's legitimately in play to be like an low end SP1, SP2 that you can get as an SP3 or 4 right now. So I'm a big fan of Severino.
Yeah, I really think there's big upside for Severino. I've only got him at 144 innings right now, but like that could shoot up. I like him as somebody that his upside is just volume there. Because if he, like you said, if he does go 175 plus, Sevy's an absolute G. So I like both those guys. I think the market will tamp down Cortes's price based on the hamstring. I'll take the discount. And then with Sevy, I like the built-in upside of just if he can stay healthy. The two Reds, the young bucks there, Hunter Greene and Nick Lodolo, a lot of excitement for both these guys across the market. We're looking at Hunter Greene at SP 34. Nick Lodolo at SP 37. So both top 40 guys, despite being on a crappy team, rough park, but their talent is through the roof. Let's start with Greene. Are you bought in on him? Because I think he's somebody who's going to have a lot of helium. So if you like him, you should be taking him in these winter drafts because I think he's going to be close to like SP 25 by spring, if he has a big spring.
Where did you say he was going in the market?
SP 34.
So I'm already out. Like it's just, I have him an SP 40.
Okay. And you could get him. I mean, like, you're not dead in the water there. On his low end, you're probably still able to get Greene, but in a room where anybody likes him, you're not getting him for sure.
And he's going to be a guy, like you said, that's like inside the top 30, maybe even inside top 25 come like main event drafts and drafts. Like people are going to just push him and for good reason. He has an amazing arm. Like the arm talent is unquestionable. I think he threw more 100 mile an hour plus pitches than like everybody else in baseball.
I believe it. I mean, as a starter too, right? When a reliever does that, you're like, okay, that makes sense. When a starter does it, oh my God.
Like it's unreal. I have two major concerns. The first major concern is that he is not a whip asset.
No, he could be a whip killer, to be honest.
Yeah,
Greene. Absolutely.
Even in the fantastic year last year, he had a 121 whip. And I mean, fantastic, not really fantastic, but let's we'll look at like first half, second half, because he was fantastic in the second half, which is where a lot of people are getting the excitement, right? He had a 102 ERA in the second half.
Tough part is it was only 6 starts, so we're putting a lot on a tiny sample for Greene. And I include myself, I got him pretty much with the market there. I have Hunter Greene ranked 36, so I'm right there with the market. But I do worry that maybe we're getting a little too aggressive over a tiny sample because I still think there's volatility there with that command. I don't think it's fixed because of 6 great starts.
And that's the problem because people are looking at like, 102 ERA. He only gave up 1 home run. He fixed the home run issue. I don't know that he fixed the home run issue. And he still pitches in Cincinnati, which is the other issue.
Yep.
And it's not just the park. I think people are like, well, it pitches in great amount of broad products can hurt him. That it's definitely gonna hurt him. But I think the bigger issue is
defense.
He pitches for the Reds, who are not going to win games.
No, that's true.
And while wins are fluky, you don't win games on bad teams.
Yeah. You still veer toward the good teams, right? Yes, a bad team guy can spike a 15, even a 17, 18 out of nowhere. Like that shit happens, but you don't project it. You got to go off of what we think is going to happen, and you still want the best team's guys.
And so now you're talking about a guy who is now a 2-category pitcher, right? ERA and strikeouts. Strikeouts are going to happen. He's going to get a ton of strikeouts. Yeah. We know this, right? I think the ERA will be palatable at worst.
Sub 4? You think sub 4 for Hunter Greene?
I think sub 4 is in the conversation. I also wouldn't be surprised if it's over 4. But I think he is potentially a whip killer. And then I know he's not going to win a lot of games. Do I want my SP3 or potentially now SP2 as he starts to rise to be a guy who only contributes to me in 2 categories?
Yeah, people could be getting a little drunk on him. What did you end up projecting him? Because I put 367, 121 for 169 innings on Greene with 213 punches. You know, the strikeouts are going to be off the charts. And that's what got me to 36. You're at 40, so you're probably not that far off.
I've got him at a 4, pretty much a 4 flat ERA, a 4.01, and a 118 whip with 212 strikeouts in 155 innings.
I'm sorry, what was the ERA and whip?
4.01 and 118.
Okay, so you actually have a lower whip than I do, but a higher ERA, and then 200 plus strikeouts. So again, we're not that far off. We're 4 ranks. So I knew our projections weren't going to be crazy different. I put 10 wins. You probably have 9 to 10 as well.
Yeah, I gave him 10 wins.
Yeah, so we're not too far off there. I don't think you're necessarily out. I mean, if he rises, sure.
I'm not out, because I think, like, especially if you have a really safe start of your rotation, he makes a lot of sense.
That shot. But I do think that the helium will rise on Greene. And you know what? I'll take the consolation of the other red and go with Lodolo. You, however, will not. You have him 63rd. No love for Lodolo. Help me out on that one. Where are you at with Nick Lodolo? He had a 30% K rate, 9% walk rate, 366 ERA, 125 whip in 103 innings. You're not buying it.
No, I mean, same kind of thing. I think he's a whip killer, and I think he's not going to win games.
You don't think he's got better potential command than Greene?
I think his command is better. I don't know that his control is that much better.
Okay.
And I think he is much more hittable. Now, I think he still has the potential to be really good. And I think that I probably need to give him a couple more wins. I only gave him 8 wins. And I think that might change things pretty dramatically.
I mean, yeah, if you put him up to the 10 that you gave Greene, I bet it would be.
I think I need to give him more innings. Maybe I need to give him like 12 more innings, because I have him at 140.
Oh, yeah. I like him to get 170 plus. He did have an injury last year.
He threw 114 last year. So I think I can get him to 1. No, I'm right. 140 is right.
He's 25. I mean, you're in line with the projections are in the 150. I guess Steamer's up at 176. I don't know. I think he's 25-year-old. I don't see any reason to really hold him back. So unless Nick Lodolo gets hurt, I think we're looking at 30 starts, and I think we should see a relatively full season there in a 30-31 start situation. I got him for 169. So right there with Greene at 169. I like both. I have them very close. They're 3 spots apart. I don't know. I think Lodolo, I don't know he's better than Greene, especially with that K rate, but he had a 30% K rate himself. Lodolo did.
Yeah. I mean, they're both legit really good. I definitely need to adjust, I think, his projection a little bit, maybe give him a couple more wins. And I think that alone will jump him up fairly high. But I don't know how much more comfortable I am at giving him more than 140 innings, maybe 145, maybe even 150.
I get it. He's never last year was the most innings he's thrown as a pro. I mean, he was just drafted in 19, so it's not like he's had all these seasons.
Mm-hmm.
The 20 season was a big loss. He's one of those guys that kind of lost a season of development there. Not that he didn't do anything, but you didn't get 100 plus innings of gameplay. And then in 2021, he only threw 50 and 2/3 because of injury. And then last year as well, because of injury, he was limited to 114, like you said, with Nick Lodolo. So I'm in on either. I already have shares of both. So I
don't have either. And I don't think I'm going to have very much of either.
I don't expect to get crazy though, because they're on a bad team. And I don't want too many shares of guys on bad teams. I just really, really don't. So that's kind of my situation with those two for sure. Let's talk about a couple more workhorses, Logan Webb and Lance Lynn. I know you're a big Lance Lynn guy. I like him as well. You have Lance Lynn 21 to my 31 though. So I'm more with the market. You are above the market. You've already mentioned that he's somebody that you're taking, and you talk about guys that, you're missing out on, even though you don't like them. It's because of your Gallens, your Manoahs, and your Lance Lynn shares, I would imagine too. He's SP 39. If you've got him at 21, you're getting him a lot. So I'm ahead of the market as well, but you are ahead of the market. Are you just seeing another return to the workload prominence for Lance Lynn at age 36, though?
Yeah, I mean, he was legitimately a top 15 pitcher in the second half.
He was a monster.
he was an absolute monster, and I chalk up a lot of what we saw in the first half to the kind of coming off the injury and just not being right yet. But once he was right and had some kind of, shook the rust off, he was just fantastic. I think there's no reason to think, as long as he's healthy in spring training, which so far there hasn't been any bad reports on him, that he can be a 180 inning monster again, that just volumes his way to being really, really good. I think while the White Sox didn't make any major moves to make themselves a lot better, I think just better health outcomes makes them a much better team.
Because they got ravaged last year. They really did.
I mean, that risk is still there, but at the end of the day, I just think he's so undervalued by the market. He's going to end up on so many of my teams if he stays where he is.
You sure you want to get that much of a 36-year-old though? I like him too. I got him
31. As my SP 3 or 4, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, and he's been a G. 157 though in 2021, 121 innings last year. So we haven't seen the workhorse guy. I mean, I in 2020, I think he led the league in innings, but it was 84. It's the shit season. Who cares? But yeah, it is hard to go against him. I think when healthy, Lynn is an absolute stud. So we just need that health to come through, and he's a beast. What about your boy, Logan Webb? I say your boy because obviously you're a Giants fan. For those that don't know, I don't know anybody that wouldn't know that, but just in case, you buying in on him because I thought he had a nice follow-up to his breakout year of 2021. It was lesser, particularly with the strikeouts coming way down from 27 to 21%, but the ERA actually dipped from 303 to 290, and he only had 5 points difference in WHIP from 111 to 116. I thought it was a heck of a season. I want to say that his trajectory was that Logan Webb started off a little poor and then got back on track, and he had to deal with that defense, which probably bred some of that volatility early on. But once the summer hit, I feel like he was pretty strong there with Logan Webb. So I remain in on him. I've already got multiple shares of him. What do you think of Webb this year?
I feel like for some reason my projections came out too low on him, and
he wasn't even bad either. By the way, it was a 326 129 ERA WHIP in April, and then a 377 103 in May. But then he was sub 3 each of the next 4 months. With good whips in 3 of those 4 months. The whip ran a little bit high in August. And again, I'm sure the defense played a role there, which it could play a role again, though. So it's not like you were out of the woods with that.
And this is the thing I keep talking about on podcasts because I keep getting asked about, I did the Giants preview with Joe Rico and Bubba Entrikin for Joe's podcast last night. And people always talk about, Alex Cobb's going to get, he got really unlucky last year. Yeah, he got unlucky.
Why would it change, though?
Yeah, he also just got screwed by the Giants defense, and the Giants defense did not get better. If anything, it got worse.
I completely agree.
They now don't have Longoria at third and a single outfielder who knows how to field the ball. So, I mean, right now, Mike Yastrzemski is their center fielder. That he's not a great center fielder. He's a pretty good corner outfielder. Yeah. But this is not going to end well. And so I have some real concerns about Logan Webb in terms of what the Giants are going to be able to help provide for him. And so I've got him lower than the market, and he's not going to be on any of my teams. I think the only Giants starter that's likely to be on any of my teams is Ross Stripling. So I like Logan Webb from a real life standpoint. From a fantasy standpoint, he's on a team that I don't know that is going to win a ton of games. And that defense behind him could let him down quite a bit. And without the strikeouts taking a step back, the upside is taken a lot out of Logan Webb. So I don't think I'm going to have him this year. I don't think he is. I think he's going too high.
You don't think he can get back some of those strikeouts?
Maybe he can. Maybe this is a situation where he's like, hey, I'm going to trust the defense to get me out. And now without the shift and with the defense that's currently behind him, maybe he goes, maybe I need to go for more strikeouts. So
that's what I'm kind of hoping with Webb.
I can definitely see it, but that is hoping, right? And
that's true.
I'm not going to project out. Yeah, we got told not to say wish casting anymore.
There's words that people I don't give a shit.
This is thinking he's going to get the strikeouts back. Now, if we see him in spring training and all of a sudden his strikeout to walk rate, and you go, hey,
Spring
those
K rates are important.
Yeah, those are one of the sticky things in spring training is strikeout and walk rate. If we start saying, hey, the strikeout rate seems a bit higher than it normally would be, then maybe we have a situation in which, hey, maybe that he is going to change a little bit, and maybe I would bump him up. But as of now, I barely have him as a top 40 starter.
Wow, you're really what's your whip on him on Webb?
I think 116 or something like
I
that.
have that too. What's your ERA?
115, 331.
Okay, that's where we differ. I got a 306 still. I don't know. I get that the defense is a concern, and you look at like a Sierra 356. I get where your ERA comes from, but I got 200 innings. I only have 11 wins too, but I've got him.
I have 100.
Relatively
I have
high.
185 innings. So
okay,
that's
so
part of it.
15 innings and the ERA definitely creates our difference.
I think he is a low ceiling but high floor kind of guy, and I don't mind pitchers like that. Like I don't mind a guy being a guy like, hey, I can count on him for 175, 180 really good innings that aren't going to hurt me at all. But I think a lot of people tend to want to reach for a little bit more upside there. I tend to as well, and so he's a little bit farther down my ranks.
Sure, I mean I can see that. If you can get those Ks back, but again, you can't project it with Webb, so I totally get that. The small sample lefties: Clayton Kershaw, Blake Snell, Jesus Luzardo. Obviously, you got the aged veteran there, and Kershaw, kind of the established guy now in Snell, and then the young buck in Luzardo. Let's talk about these three. You can't have a Kershaw projection that ranges much higher than 130 innings, I would imagine, right? Like that's just where we're at with him these days. He's an every sixth day kind of guy. I want to say that it was DVR and that we're highlighting that on rates and barrels, but he's still so badass when he pitches. And you're probably going to have a spell or two where he's going to be out for a little bit. You need to replace him. But I'll take my 22 starts and my 125 innings from Kersh and be happy with it. Are you interested as well, or do you veer away from him because of those innings concerns? Is the skill enough for you to take on the limited innings?
Yeah, for Kershaw, it is. As long as my rotation is already built up with two kind of workhorses, right? If I'm getting Kershaw as my SP3, I'm going to be pretty effing happy. I have him as my starting pitcher, 44 with 125 innings. I think that he's fairly appropriately ranked in the market, and there are plenty of drafts in which he falls on a per inning basis, especially in a league where like I have deep benches, IL spots, things like that. I'm much more likely to take the gamble because I can backfill his starts that he misses, right? In your deeper leagues, he becomes a little bit more difficult to take just because especially if you play in like NFBC, like there's no IL, you got to hold him on your roster when he misses 2 weeks here and there. So I think it's really your roster construction and league dependent, but I don't have a problem taking Kershaw in the same way that I have a big issue taking the other guys.
Yeah, I mean, Kershaw was SP17 last year, like I said, with those limited innings. I got him at SP30. The market has him at SP38. So I think some of those concerns are kind of built in. I agree with you on the roster construction, though, because in NFBC with just the 7 roster spots, reserve spots, you got to hold him. But I'm going to hold him through those trials and tribulations. And if I have IL, I'm 1,000% in on Kersh, and I'll take the shot. And yeah, it could blow up, right? There could be the year where he does throw 70 innings instead, because he gets a year older. That's how time works, if it continues to progress. But he's a walk-in Hall of Famer. He's just so damn good. I'll even take him at 35. Blake Snell. I think there's some projection out there for some folks that want him to be better. And I get it. And I'm kind of hoping for it too. I've got him up there relative to where he's going in the market. He's SP35. I got him SP25. I don't think my projection is crazy though. Let me see my innings. I got him at 169. That doesn't feel out of pocket.
That is out of pocket. He's had 128 innings pitch in each of the last 2 seasons. Projecting him for that much more is wish casting. I hate to use the term that everybody keeps, or not everybody, but somebody.
You did that with Glasnow. I'm gonna keep going back on that. You're a hypocrite.
I think I projected him for exactly 128 innings. I went, hey, you pitched 128 innings the last 2 years, you're getting 100.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I gave him 130. just to have a nice round number. I think it'll be a good 130, but like the Padres have clearly like they've signed like 17 starters this offseason.
They don't want to be caught
They're
short.
not messing around. He's also not a guy who tends to go super deep into games either. Though he did at the end of the season.
That's the thing. He had the early season injury, cost him a month. But from there forward, Snell was pretty good. And maybe I might just be overrating that. I acknowledge that. But started to show 6s and 7s. If you pace out his return from the injury through the rest of the season, it paces out to 181. Maybe 169 is a little high, but I think I'm only going to lower it to like, I don't know, 155. I'll shave off 14 innings there. But I don't know. Even at age 30, even having not gone over 130 since 2018, the Cy Young season, I don't see chronic injuries here, right? And it kind of goes back to my point about predicting the health. Like, yeah, he's had health issues, 100%. I'm not going to deny that on Snell. That would just be denying reality. And it was this left adductor, I guess, the last 2 years. That is, same thing twice. That does give a little bit of pause. But I'm not pushing him for a full, 32 starts or anything either. I'll bring the innings down a bit. But
he's also a bad whip guy.
Yeah. Well, what did he do down the stretch last year, though? Wasn't it better? Or am I imagining that?
I can tell you.
I felt like
just
second half there. I thought
I'll go from August on 103 whip. So
I feel like the maybe okay. I might just be overrating the second half, right? Love Snell. He's my dude. I might just be overrating the second half. I'll definitely come down on it a little bit.
It's hard because it was a fantastic second half. I think the biggest issue for me is I just don't trust the innings. I think I can.
That's where I'm kind of getting bought in, is thinking that he can have that healthy, and it is projecting something that has not happened recently. I do grant that, right?
I think I can maybe bump it up to 140, and that might bump him up over Glasnow and bump him up into the top 40, top 45.
Kind of meet in the middle there, then, because I'm gonna bring it down. 169 is putting a little bit too much out there, because it is back-to-back injuries, the same injury back-to-back years.
Always got something.
It's that adductor has been the same thing the last 2 years, and that is something to have some concern over. Totally get that. So I move him down and it puts him at SP 33 for Blake Snell. And then you look at that, he's SP 35 in the market. Okay, so more in line with the market. But I'm going to stick with my projection, which is a 351, 118 in that time, 153 innings with a.
Our projection isn't very far off.
Yeah, so it's just the innings.
It's just the innings.
It's just the innings, totally.
Which I'm fine with. I don't think he's that special of a guy where if I miss out on him, I'm gonna be hating myself.
He is special. You should hate yourself.
I think he is a special person.
I really like him.
I love him as a person, as a fantasy asset. I'm rooting for him as a person. I'm rooting for the Padres as a team.
They're a fun team.
I'd like to see Sammy Reed win a World Series.
You just don't want the Dodgers to win, so you're rooting against them at all costs, especially because your team probably not going to do it.
My team may finish fourth in this division.
Could be rough. We do have some love for the D-backs. Both of us could see some growth there. And then let's finish with Luzardo there on the small sample lefties. And, he kind of did some things last year, but you're still looking at somebody that couldn't quite get the full season, had some hiccups. Are we trusting him? He only had 100 innings, but a 332, 104 with a 30% K rate. You love that, but it was 95 innings the year before. There's another guy who just doesn't have the volume. How high can you really go on a projection for Jesus Luzardo at age 25, given what he's been doing in his previous years?
I mean, for me, it is all about the innings again. I projected him probably, 135 is what I did. And again, he's a guy where I have a really hard time figuring out kind of what he is, because I kind of start with a 2 or 3 year average usually when I'm doing a projection, and you look at his whip. He had a 104 whip last year, amazing, right? With all those strikeouts and a 3.32 ERA, and the underlying numbers kind of back up a lot of what he did. But then you look at 2021, he had a 162 whip, and you go, oh God, like where in the middle is that meeting? Because he's probably going to regress some, but how far? And like, where does the home run rate regress to? Like, is he going to stay?
Yeah, his last 2 years were
They're
just polar opposites.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. So
absolutely on Luzardo.
Are you going to get the monster or not? Like, I don't know. I think what it comes down to me at the end of the day is, am I willing to take the gamble with the injury risk? And I mean, the performance risk, but mostly the injury risk. I mean, he's a guy who's really,
because I think they're one in this. I think injury played a role in the production in 2021 for Luzardo.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it was all injury. He's a guy that has always struggled with his command in the zone. And last year he seemingly figured it out, which is what we've always been waiting for. And so I want to kind of believe that he has somewhat figured it out, and that he can be this guy moving forward. The question is, like, how many innings can I project him for? I think I might be a little bit too harsh on the ratios in terms of his projectum. I have him at a 3.67 ERA and a 1.23 whip. I think I might.
I get that, but I was a little bit more generous.
Yeah, I think I might need to soften that a little bit, but I don't know that I can project him for 145, 150 innings. His injury history is too great. They've got too much in that rotation where they can just skip him, or even if he's not hurt, put him on the IL just to kind of limit his innings and stuff like that. So I think even if I boost up the projection, which I might do at some point, it's not going to bring me up where the market's at.
Yeah, the market on Luzardo is at SP 41, and you have him currently at SP 68. So even if you do give Luzardo
69.
some love, 69, nice. Yeah. Even if you do give him some love, it's not going to get him there.
Yeah,
and I totally understand that. I mean, I've actually got him. I'm altered a little bit. I went a little too high in the innings. I had 155. So I did lower it to 144 here. Just shaved off 11, and it did lower him down now. So I'm actually closer to you. I'm at 60 with Luzardo. I'm not sure I'm ready to take that plunge, especially on a bad team too, right? If you're piling up the risk if there's talent risk and you're going bad team risk, that's a little bit scary. That's a little bit scary for me. Let's talk about a couple sophomores here. Kyle Wright and Joe Ryan had big breakout seasons, different degrees, of course. Kyle Wright was amazing. And of course, the 21 wins, the league leading 21 wins, played a big role in that. But don't sleep on the 3.19, 1.16 ERA whip combo with 174 Ks in 180 innings. What does he do for a follow-up in your estimation? Kyle Wright with the Braves.
So this is an interesting one because I wrote him up last night. Because he's moving down the ADP. People are seeing
take the discount.
Yeah, people are seeing those 21 wins and going, well, of course we're going to regress him. 21. There's no way he gets 21 wins. I don't think anybody's projecting him for 21 wins.
I don't think anyone's projecting him for 17 wins even.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have him projected for like 13 or 14, something like that.
I got 13 with a 356, 116 for Kyle Wright.
Yeah, I have him for 13. 180 innings.
I got 192. I got the innings going up. I think he's gonna be a dude.
Yeah, and a 3.60 ERA, 1.18 whip.
Yeah, we're pretty much in lockstep there.
And that puts him at my starting pitcher 38. And I think he's going to be one of the guys. I think him and Tyler Anderson are this year's Adolis Garcia, which is the market hates you so much that you become a bargain at the price. And so if the price keeps dropping on Kyle Wright, and this second time I've done this article where the price has dropped on him,
really,
I'm going to have a lot of Kyle Wright.
Yeah, I'm willing to buy back in. I mean, he's SP 36. I have him SP 29. You have him SP 38. So you're right by the market. I'm a little bit ahead. It's probably those 12 innings that are playing a lot of the difference because based on what the projection that you just said, we are not far off on the ERA and whip and strikeouts. And I didn't project this, of course, but I think there's even some strikeout upside.
I do
He has
too.
12% K rate. I don't see any reason that he can't amp up to a 25% plus. I kept him in that 23, 22 range, somewhere in between there. But I really think Kyle Wright is the real deal. Like, I'm not worried about the 21 wins. I brought that way down, like I said, to 13. I think the talent is there. It's a former number 5 overall pick, had never really found his footing in a tiny sample, 70 innings spread out over 4 seasons. That is literally meaningless to me. Nothing.
Yeah.
And again, he could have had a 156 ERA in that time. That's meaningless on the other end. But the fact that he had a 656 ERA, couldn't have cared less about 70 innings spread out over 4 seasons. So I was judging him as the minor leaguer that he was. And, you take like what 85% of minor league numbers to get an idea of what they might do in the majors. He of course surpassed that. He'll be 27. He's here. He's the guy. I don't see any reason to hold him back. That's why I put 192 innings on him. I like Kyle Wright quite a bit. I have no problem making him my SP3.
Good control, good command. Yeah, he doesn't have like the best of stuff necessarily, but he gets a lot of ground balls. A guy who's not going to give up home runs, not going to walk guys, and gets a lot of ground balls.
Team.
Yeah, great team. Yeah, I think he's kind of undervalued right now.
And what if they support him for another 16, 17 wins as opposed to the 13 that we have? Boom, now you're talking SP25 again, top 25, I should say. And then what about Joe Ryan? Again, a little bit further down the spectrum in terms of what he did in his rookie campaign, but it was really sharp. 147 innings of a 3.55 ERA and a 110 whip. Won a little charity bet with Alex Fast on that. It's my boy. Both Alex Fast and Joe Ryan, my boys. But, the one issue that he had is the home runs. He's so dependent on that fastball. The deception and quality of it is huge. But when it's off, it's homer prone because it's not particularly fast. And so when they're seeing it, they go boomtown. I still remember because I was streaming during this, and I think I had him on DraftKings against San Diego. I was taking the plunge there and saying, okay, I'll use him against a good team. He gave up 10 earned, including 5 homers, and they just kind of pummeled him there. It was July 29th. From that point, though, he rebounded off of that and finished with a 3.23 ERA in 61 innings over his final 11 starts. So, one of those disaster starts can really hurt you. It didn't push him over too high of an ERA, though. 3.55 was his season number. Imagine if he hadn't had a 10-run dud like that. I think Joe Ryan's quite good, and I have no problems taking him where he's going, which is SP40. I think it's a fair price. I don't see a ton of upside here, but I'll take something close to a repeat from Joe Ryan. What about you in his follow-up season?
Yeah, I kind of feel the exact same way as you. Like, I don't see like another level here, and I think he's one of the guys that has a lot of risk because there are 2 ways in which he could become absolute garbage. One is that he just doesn't have the command that he showed last year, right? Even like he's one of these guys that like just a little slip in command could mean a massive difference in terms of how many home runs he actually gives up, because he gives up so many fly balls. Like, if guys just square him up just a little bit better, you could be a problem. The other way is completely out of control, and it's the ball. I think he was a beneficiary of the ball being a little dead last year. And if they decide to give everybody Goldilocks balls, he's going to get murdered. Now, that being said, I really like the park he pitches in, the division he pitches in, the defense behind him. I like his skills generally, too. So I've got him for like a 370, I want to say a 370 ERA, and a 110 whip. 375, 110 in 175 innings.
375, 110, you said for Joe Ryan? 375, 110. I've got 381, 112. We're right there.
Yeah, and so like I have him pretty much right at market, and maybe even a little bit above market. Where'd you say he was going?
He is going SP40, and you got him 33, and I got him 45. So, as much as I like the guy, I'm actually a little bit below the market right now. But he does have a wide range, so I think there is plenty of worlds where I get Joe Ryan when he drops down there. Home run issues can be scary, and that is what his biggest concern, like you said. But I do still like him, and I will buy back on this season, particularly if he falls to where I've got him there at SP45.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on here. We still got a couple more, and then we'll get out of here. We got 3 more guys, a couple rebounds, and then the guy with a new delivery by force, though. The rebounds, Lucas Giolito and Freddie Peralta. Things couldn't have gone much worse for Giolito last year. His former ace, really fell off. Just he encapsulates the volatility of pitching year to year, because who the hell saw a 490, 144 coming after the 2+ seasons that he put up? Because again, 2020 is not a full season, but the 2 big seasons in 19 and 21 were excellent. I love the idea of a rebound here, because I believe in Giolito. It's a little bit of an intangible thing. He kind of built himself, though. I don't give Don Cooper any credit. Ethan Katz, I'll give some credit to. Now they have a new pitching coach, but he was pretty clear that he did his work on his own to break out in 2019, because Don Cooper didn't do shit. And now they got Ethan Katz. They have a legit coach. I really think that that he can do his thing here and rebound. Are you buying back in on Lucas Giolito at SP 44 for a rebound?
My projections say no. I really don't know what to make of his 2022. There were moments in which he looked like the guy that was a first, second round pick in March drafts in 2022. And there were moments where Lucas Giolito looked completely hittable. Mm-hmm. And I wonder how much of it was mental, because when I kind of broke down the numbers, the thing I found was when he got behind in the count, he got murdered. And when he got ahead of guys, he got out of innings very quickly and struck guys out. And so you almost wonder, like, is this a pitch sequencing issue, or is this I'm upset with a call type of issue, and now I'm just going to throw a meatball over the plate and let the guy take a whack at it. And I kind of think it might be the latter. I think it might have been a mental issue. And
it varied too, right? Each pitch like had its own time of messing up.
It wasn't like one pitch was markedly worse. It was not even start to start. It was inning to inning, different things failing him. And so I have to wonder, is it a mental issue? And maybe a guy just comes in with a clean slate and goes, I'm going to show people that I'm better. My projections have me completely out on him, but I think they're largely influenced by, I don't know what the hell he is at this point. And so I have not drafted him. I've come close. I've got him as my SP 60.
So you are not in on the Giolito rebound.
Yeah. I think that's unfair. And I do think I need to.
You might be overvaluing last year a little bit too much. This is where looking at multiple years really does help. I got him SP 43, so I'm kind of right in line with the market there, which is still a pretty sharp discount. I mean, he was a top 20 guy last year, no?
Yeah.
So,
I took him in the second round of my main event and paired him with Trevor Rogers.
Man, you just burnt $1,800. I mean, not that like, I'm not shitting on you. I liked both those guys, especially Rogers. Rogers really.
Yeah, and that was the league in which Scott Jenstead almost won the overall, and I was drafting right next to him. I just soaked up all the risk for him. It was awesome. I think I need to rework his projection a little bit.
Where are you at on Giolito? Let's hit some numbers here.
I have him a 4.09 ERA, a 126 WHIP, 176 innings, and 180 strikeouts.
Okay, I got 173 innings, 189 Ks, 369, 120 though. So I got the ERA coming back under 4. Again, I'm going to give him credit for what he's done there, and kind of I'm not erasing last year. 369 is still higher than where he's been, but I'm going to give Giolito credit to rebound there and get back on track, because even last year the FIP was 406. The Sierra was 379. The skills were still there. And again, I talk about how game to game, it was a different pitch here and a different pitch there that was failing him. Like, he had components of what made Giolito great throughout the season. He just couldn't keep it together.
And that's why I think it's a mental thing. Like, it really,
and that's but that's what leads me to believe that he could completely get back on track this year. And maybe even the 369 is too high. But again, he was 353 the year before and 341 in his breakout. So I'm not that far from where he was in 19 and 21. So I like him to mostly rebound.
Yeah, I'm just looking kind of his second half numbers, and his velo was down too. I wonder if there's an injury.
I'll tell you this: there's not a whole lot you can go off of last year that's going to get you warm and fuzzy about Giolito. It's a matter of if you believe that 21 and 19 are still indicative of the guy he can be, plus what you attribute 22's failings to, which you're saying mental and just kind of inconsistency, which to me says it's fixable. And it's
I definitely think it's fixable. Like
it's a matter of whether or not he does, sure. But I'm gonna bet
he's a guy that once I see him pitch in spring, I may end up moving up quite a bit.
And I could see that too. And listen, I know they said we have to ban wish casting. I'm sure the next thing they're going to want us to ban is baked into the price. But I think that phrase matters.
Yeah, absolutely.
About it at SP44, I think the risk is covered there with Giolito.
Absolutely, I agree.
Okay, so then let's move on to our final guy. New delivery for Luis Garcia.
Freddie Peralta.
Oh, Freddie Peralta. Sorry. Freddie P. Rebound. Now, when he broke out, it was like one of those where it's like, oh, he did do it because we thought he could, but like the chances weren't that high because he's kind of a one-pitch guy when he was really cooking. That fastball is amazing with the extension that he gets on it and has some command issues, but he did it. He had a great 144 inning season in 2021. Injuries were always a concern though too, because he's got that slight frame. Can he hold up to the rigors of a full season? 18 appearances, 17 starts last year, 78 innings. It did not go well. It went well when he pitched, but the volume wasn't there. 358, 104. That's fine on the ERA whip, but 78 innings. Can he rebound and get back up to, 135 plus innings? Because he can be one of those short sample guys that is a top 30 pitcher, even with 125, 130 innings. But do you think that Freddie Peralta even gets back to that level? Or are you concerned that he just can't hold up to the rigors of every fifth day consistently?
Am I allowed to say I don't know?
You are allowed to say that. And then I guess I would ask, so what did you put for a projection? Like where do you stand on him? And are you drafting Freddie Peralta?
I gave him 140 innings.
I gave him 133.
A 347 ERA, a 104 whip, 155 strikeouts. That ended up him as my SP43.
I got him 53, so I guess I'm a bit lower on Peralta there.
I mean, I think on a per inning basis, he's really good, and I think I'd be much more likely to draft him in a shallower format league where I can throw him on my IL. I don't play in a ton of shallower format leagues. I'm going to play in more this year, especially if those listener leagues fill up in the Discord. But I'm very, very nervous about it. Like I think he's one of these guys I think could be a league winner. Like I know that phrase is poo-pooed as well, but like I do. I think
let's say every phrase that people don't like. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, let's only say the phrases.
Yes,
he's free.
He's free. Yeah. He's free. Pick 38 free.
Yeah, he's not free. But I don't know. I have a really hard take on a guy with his risk profile. I know they're saying that he's got no injury concerns, and that's not why they pull him. That's not why they pulled him from the WBC. But I'm just nervous, and I don't usually take guys that high when I'm nervous about them.
I'm not really there with Peralta. Like I said, I got SP53. He's SP44 in the market. Excuse me, SP42 in the market. Pick 145. Top 150. That's not close to free. You are paying a price there that you have an.
If you're in a 10-team Yahoo league, that is kind of free.
It's not free, but it is more palatable. You're talking 14th, 15th round there, where you're like, okay, your expectation of him is not as high, but when you jump that up to 15 teams, you're talking about a top 10 rounder. Mm-hmm. Those are foundational players still.
Yeah.
And in a 10-team league, it's not free, but the replacement is a lot easier on Peralta. So I do get that. But yeah, I just don't think I'm going to do it. I'm just not sure he can stand up to the rigors of starting consistently. So it's going to be one where I'm willing to miss on. All right, let's finish out with the new guy, the new delivery, Luis Garcia. But it's not by choice. They are banning his Rockabye Baby delivery. They would say that that's a balk now. So I don't know how much that's going to impact him, but he does have to change his delivery now. More to the point of just his talent in general. What do you think of Luis Garcia? I feel like he's kind of overlooked these days, where people are like so enamored with Cristian Javier and even with Hunter Brown on the come up that Garcia kind of gets pushed off to the side a little bit. Only to a degree. He's still SP43, pick 149. So he's right there with Peralta and Giolito and that. But is Garcia somebody you like? Because I don't hear much hype for him in the market.
Garcia is one of these guys where I did his. Why am I not finding him on my sheet?
Probably because there's an accent in Garcia.
There we go. I found him.
Okay.
So he's one of those guys where I had him as like a top 25 starter because I've always really, really liked Luis Garcia. And then I did the projections on him and he dropped to 36. And I went, oh, that's weird. And so it's like, this is why I really like the exercise of actually doing the projections myself, as opposed to
instead of what your gut tells you.
Instead of what my gut just tells me. Because like you actually look at the numbers that he produces and you go, oh, okay. He's not like a stellar guy anywhere. He's good. He's
just kind of solid. Yeah.
He's just super solid. But he's not great anywhere. And so he's kind of got a low ceiling. I'm still fine with where he goes and stuff, but he just doesn't end up on any of my teams, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know what to do here because, like, I'm not like super out on him. I don't think Luis Garcia is terrible or anything, but I put a 382, 118, and 153 innings. I just think he's fine. I guess it's just kind of blah. But I got him at SP 55, which means I'm probably not getting him if he's going SP 43, or excuse me, what was it? 43 consistently. That's a 40 pick dip down to SP 55. I'm just probably not going to see him fall down there very often. I'm okay with that, though. I'm okay missing on him. I just think he's solid, if unspectacular. Does have a bit of a home run issue, though. 1.2 for his career. It was up to 1.3 last year. And then I do wonder if having to change that Rockabye Baby delivery, does that do anything? Is that something that, changing anything with pitchers can be tough, and he's going to have to change his delivery.
I think I need to drop his innings, too, because I projected him for 170, but he's been a 155, 157 last 2 years. Maybe that's all he just goes.
Yeah, I think, and they'll give him a spot here to rest. They'll bring in somebody. They'll maybe let Hunter Brown catch a few starts there if McCullers is healthy. So I don't know. I think he's just fine. I think Luis Garcia is just fine. If you like him, take him. I'm not trying to talk anybody out of him, but I don't see a ton of upside. The one spot I could maybe see some more upside is with the Ks, because he does miss plenty of bats, 13% swing and strike rate, and he did have a 26% K rate in 21. It dipped back to 24. That's not crazy. I could see 170, 175 strikeouts in his 150 something innings, but I can't do much more beyond that. Yeah. All right, we did it. We got through a ton of guys today. And so that's part 2 of the starting pitchers. We're going to continue going. And I think with the next one, we'll be at around SP 45. Chris Bassett's where we're going to start. We go 45 to like 75 maybe. And the way I'll group them, I'll make sure that we have some that are a little bit quicker there, because I love deep diving. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if we can do 3 more 2-hour episodes. I know we can.
Yeah,
but I don't know if we should.
Yeah, we got Podpalooza coming, so I'm gonna have a pretty long weekend.
So we'll do SP3 on Monday, and it'll cover 30, 35 guys. But I'll hit you on some quick hitters. Tell us how much you love Andrew Heaney. Okay, done with that. Stuff like that. And
I'll do 2 hours on Andrew Heaney.
You do a separate a Patreon only pod of you just fawning over him. Even though he is SP 65 right now, I don't think we're gonna have too much in depth to say about Frankie Montas, because that price is gonna go way down. But we will talk about that on Monday.
He will be free.
he will be free. Yes, I will let you call him free, because with the price that he's gonna fall to, he's 100% off my board.
Should not draft him.
If you're drafting him in redraft, I don't care if you have IL spots. Don't waste your spot. Anyway. Talk to you on Monday. Have a good one.
Take it easy.